Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast for another team season preview. And this time, the team we're doing is one of the teams of last season, the Detroit Lions. I'm, as ever, your host, Annie Davis. And with me today, I've got a returning guest, It's a Lions. Of course, I'm going to get back with her today, Aaron Fletcher of Asleep at Work and Heard of the Line. Aaron, how are you?
I am so good. Football is right around the corner. College football season's right around the corner. NFL's right around the corner. Bit gutted that the Olympics is a bit past us now, but we've had 5 months now with 6 months of football. So I cannot complain. I don't know about yourself.
I agree totally. For me, I view the best 2 months of sport for me are December and May. I mean, May for obvious reasons. You've got a million different finals. Of December, you've got, I love Christmas time sport anyway. But I think generally the period I get between September, or basically August until February, best time of year because you've got both sports happening at the same time. Both sports I love. So those 6 months we get are just for me the best time because, those Sundays are just so good. You've got Premier League game at 12:30 or 2:00. Then you've got 1 at 4:30. Then you've got that brief crossover when you've got sports on multiple devices. And then you've got NFL then until, well, for me, midnight, but some people till 4 a.m. And it's just such a good time of year. And it always seems to be such a long off season. It always seems to be, I know the Super Bowl, you come to the Super Bowl and it's all that 2 weeks of hype. Then the game happens and you're like, well, what now? I've got 8 months without any NFL action. You got the draft and free agency, but no games for 8 months. And now it's pretty much here. We're recording this on August 13th. It's probably being released on the 15th or 16th of August.
Yeah.
And by that point, it's going to be not even half a month before the season starts. So I can't wait. And I'm looking forward to the season beginning, which obviously for you must be an exciting time because you guys, you really defied expectation. I mean, you were seen as a dark horse. People were fanting you to maybe break that long drought of not winning a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone had you making the NFC Championship game. And really, no one had you being 17 points up in that game as well, which you probably should have won, I hate to say. First of all, how amazing was that for you? But also, does it change mentality-wise in terms of from going from the underdogs to now being one of the favourites?
Well, first off, I was going to say, it was, I don't think you can really put into words, I think, looking back, just what an incredible season it actually was, and the continued defiance of expectations, and it just seemed, don't know if you remember watching Hard Knocks a couple of years ago when the Lions were on it, and Dan Campbell kind of had everyone look back and look at the big sign saying grit and said, well, what does that even mean? And he kind of explained it's the whole, we'll go a little bit longer, we'll think a little bit deeper, we'll play a little bit harder. And, if it's 2 teams that are crawling over the finish line, we're just going to crawl over the line first. And I think we did that a lot last season. It felt like we were doing that quite a bit. You look at some of those games, like the Chargers game, where I can't remember what the actual final score was, but it feels like it was 48-45 or something. I know both of us got over 40. And again, it was just a game of just crawling over the line and who can kind of be that team. And it really was just brilliant to watch and just kind of see this team take the bull by the horns and really run with it. As far as kind of this next season goes, I don't think so. I don't think Dan Campbell's that kind of coach. I don't think this is that kind of team. I think there will always find a way to have a chip on the shoulder mentality, whether it's, I don't know, Jared Goff, I guess maybe looking at how many QBs went ahead of him in the top 100 and saying, well, I'm better than X amount of those QBs. And now players who didn't make the Pro Bowl going with that chip on the shoulder. And I think to add on to that as well, though, losing the NFC Championship game in the manner that they did, I think if the likes of your Jared Goffs, your Ramon-Ra, your Penei Sewells, who talk the game that they talk, are legit, then that fuels them more. losing that game the way they did has got to fuel you more. You can't walk away from that thinking, okay, well, we did nearly enough, and that's fine. You've got to walk away thinking from that, going, no, we can. We have to do that little bit better. Have to, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think, we talk about a similar thing with the Texans. They're probably going to go for the exact same thing as you in terms of, obviously you're going to games now as a favourite to most games, and I think teams will have probably more tape on you, and it just seems like, it's one of those things where it could go one or two ways. It could either really feel you that loss, and it could give you that extra impetus to go out and win it. We talk going off sport again here, but Liverpool, you lose the league with 97 points, and then next season you go out and get 99, and you're just an absolute machine and don't lose the game, or you drop points once until March. And I think you could have that happen to Lions, but on the flip side, with more teams sort of, out to get you, and more teams having tape on you, and going to later on, but the schedule you've got is pretty brutal because of that reason, because you've won more games, and and that's how the schedule works for those who are NFL novices listen to this podcast. And so that obviously all changes. And I think the example I always have is, I know they didn't make a title game, but the Browns in 2018 had a great end of the season. They get Odell Beckham, they get Jarvis Landry, all this hype around them, and they're seen as one of the favourites, which they've not had in years. And then ultimately they disappoint, and it's a bit of a damp squid now. I don't think any Lions fans are going to sit here and not take another appearance in the NFC Championship game, or even divisional round, because it's been so long without a playoff win. Just to be involved again and win another playoff game would be again a sign of progress. But obviously, you're just hoping that it's not one of those ones where you get all the hype and expectation, and then it ends in disappointment. But this is the difficulty. This isn't the Lions we know. This isn't the Lions we're used to. The team you've got has done more in basically in 2 weeks than any team has in years. Didn't win a playoff game for 30 years. You won two in the space of 2 weeks. So, I think the whole Amon Brown thing, the fight thing, no one coming out to help him, could be a thing. But I don't. I think you're right. I think it'll be absolutely fine.
That's not that. Well, I watched a lot of those videos for just out, kind of shaking my head. He had 1 million people, right? He wasn't unhelped. He had quite a few people by him and came in and jumped to help him. Same with Kirby Joseph. Same with a group of others. That video was a bit weird, and the caption saying nobody was there to help him. Like, there were people like 5 or 6 people came to his aid instantly. So it's just one of those things, unfortunately, that that caption was a bit misleading. But there were a number of his teammates right there for him, straight on the spot.
Fair enough. I'd not noticed that. So that's on me. Let's look at the offseason as a whole. The main outs include Jonah Jackson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Teddy Bridgewater, David Blau, and Romeo Okwara to retirement, as well as the likes of Will Harns. Not many other main outs, unless I've looked in the wrong place. Couldn't see any outs, but the main ins include the likes of Carlton Davis, DJ Reader, Kevin Zeitler, Traquan Smith, Cam Sutton, and Tracy Walker via trade, as well as re-signing the likes of Donovan Peoples-Jones, Michael Badgley, and Graham Glasgow. And then your draft picks include my personal favorite pick of the whole draft, my draft crush of this year, Terrion Arnold, 24th overall out of Alabama, the cornerback. Another cornerback taken 61st overall in Ennis Rakestraw Jr. 126th overall, you took Giovanni Manu, offensive tackle. 132nd overall, you took running back / safety, Sione Vaki. Offensive tackle, 189th overall in Makai Wingo. And then finally, you took guard Christian Mahonegi, 210th overall. So for you, Fletch, your take on the offseason as a whole for your team.
What was the number one thing everyone said that the Lions needed to address going into the offseason?
Secondary.
What's the first thing they addressed?
The secondary.
D-line was the second one. And the thing we did straight away with that was D-line. It's been a very defensive off season for us. One of the things I've continued to say was last season, I unfairly said Aaron Glenn cannot change his scheme and does not know how to change. I think that's true in game, but actually throughout the season, he's done that. Especially last season, he did it. The problem being that Aidan Hutchinson was struggling on his own on the D line. It wasn't great, and AG continued to try and run the same scheme that he was running with no help to Aidan Hutchinson. Now, he did change that up. He started sending more linebackers down. He started putting a different men in different packages on the D line, which gave Hutch a bit more support, put a bit more of a strain on the on the O line of any of our opposing offenses. However, that was leaving less men in the backfield, less men in the secondary, and we all saw what continued to happen to Cameron Sutton all season long, which was not pretty, unless you were an opposing offense, and it was very, very gorgeous. It must have been, but it was not pretty from a Lions standpoint. Those changes have been made. However, having the pieces all together throughout that defense has been lacking, and that's where they've come through. I think the most, and hopefully that means that if a D line is bolstered, you don't have to play with the secondary, and that secondary should be very good. Should be good enough to kind of play those schemes and those, especially those man coverages. Terry and Arnold is, yeah, I completely agree with you. Terry and Arnold is just absolutely amazing. He was my CB1. I never thought we'd even come close to him. I didn't do much on him in the prior to the draft, just because I thought we'd never get him unless we traded up a house for him. So that was great to see. Yeah, but yeah, that the whole thing about the offseason was defense. Give Hutch tools, get tools in the secondary, and that's what we did. The only problems I'm kind of seeing now are our wide receiver depth. And Dan Campbell said in a press conference the other day, look, we're dying for someone to stand up. Jameson Williams is going to, I think, have a very, very good year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we all know what he can do and what he will probably continue to do. The running game is what it is. Sam Laporta joining and having a second year is going to be great, but we just need a little bit more depth. Khalif Raymond is great. I love Khalif. I love Leaf. DPJ, I would love to see him step up to the plate. So that's why I think as you mentioned, though, we've lost a couple of pieces on that in that wide receiver room. You mentioned Josh Reynolds leaving to go to, is it the Broncos he's now gone to?
Yeah, the Broncos, yeah.
That was a heartbreaking one for me. It's just been a phenomenal piece of this offense and someone Jared Goff has trusted a lot. So that's that's not great. But I guess we'll see how that receiver room reacts to that and who steps up to the plate going forward on that one.
Now, you mentioned the running back room. Now, as this report came out the other day on ESPN, that Detroit Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs suffered a hamstring injury at practice Monday night, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter. Gibbs was being evaluated for a leg injury after departing the practice session early, though it was unclear on which play he was injured. So in terms of that, now, nothing's come out in terms of how long he's out for, how serious his injury is, but if it is serious, with the strength you had in terms of having that 1-2 punch of Gibbs and Montgomery, how effective could that be? How much of an impact could that be in a bad way on your season if you were to lose that sort of that one? I think personally already one of the best backs in the league.
Yeah.
For a few weeks now or a few months, just how detrimental could that be if he was to have time in the regular season out on the sidelines?
I mean, it'd hurt. Don't get me wrong. The only reason I would say it's a positive to have a bye week in week 5 is if something like this were to happen, you can hopefully, if it is to be a bit more serious, then that is technically a little bit earlier in the season. You can get Jahmyr Gibbs back. That's not too bad. Hopefully, like I say, it's nothing too serious. Hopefully, it's just a minor, maybe a grade 1 rubbing up of the hamstring, and he kind of came off, and it's just a bit, oh, that's not nice. just have a bit of a rest this week and don't go too hard in preseason, please. So, but as far as it being detrimental, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird. David Montgomery is a fantastic running back. We thought we were going to get Jamal Williams, but slightly better. But what we got was at times a prime number one running back. He put up number one numbers and was absolutely fantastic. The best way, I think, the best way. There's no best way it can hurt your team. The main way it would hurt the team would be, I think, it's not just having the 1-2 punch, but it's also having what Jahmyr Gibbs offers in the receiving game, because he has the hands and has the explosive speed, etc., and has played a part in the receiving game too. So again, if you've got a slightly more depleted wide receiver room that no one is quite stepping up to that wide receiver 3B kind of slot, then Jahmyr Gibbs would be absolutely ideal for helping and getting bodies in there and being a sure, reliable pair of hands. So I think that's a bigger way that it could end up being detrimental, because I'm sure David Montgomery can handle the vast majority of those snaps in the backfield. And I like Craig Reynolds. I don't think he's exactly quite Jahmyr Gibbs, but I like giving Craig Reynolds a couple of those snaps and letting him take some of that pressure off David Montgomery as well. That could hopefully help with the back situation, at least.
Yeah, it's just what we see. Some teams like the 49ers, or what will be now the Ravens, or the Titans with Derrick Henry, you have these number one backs where they don't need anyone behind them and they're absolutely fine. But I think some teams can be quite effective with that 1-2 punch, and I think that we've seen it with, we saw how effective Zeke and Pollard were together as a 1-2 punch, and when they were healthy last season, Mostert and A-Chain were a really effective duo, and I just worried that would be. Now, don't get wrong, it's not really how you start week 1. He could be out for 8 weeks, come back week 9. Team could be 5-3, 4-2, I don't know, 5-6, like 6-5, or something like that.
Yeah.
He comes back in, you win the final 5-6 games down the stretch, get into playoffs, fully fine. So I'm speaking here like it's going to affect the season, but of course we all forget that you could lose 3 of your first 6 games and still win a division and make the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think as long as you get back, as long as he's playing at least from week 5 or after that bye week onwards, from what you're after what you're saying as well, then yeah, that would obviously be absolutely fine. So it just depends how serious it is. It might just be a few weeks and that's it. I'm not medically qualified. I don't know how long it'd be out for. But I don't see it. Doesn't sound like one way he'd be out for the whole season. It sounds like he'll be one way back at least midway through the season.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be like an ACL. I know there was a claim running around earlier this morning on Twitter that someone was trying to claim it was an ACL, but they created a fake account of an ESPN analyst, and it had managed to get a bit of traction, which was a bit silly. So, but it's highly unlikely to be an ACL or anything of the such. It's hamstring, and that purely depends on grade 1, 2, or 3. Obviously, like I say, we've not heard any information. I could be wrong, and with it being a hamstring, could be wrong about the ACL too, although I doubt it. But we don't have the information yet. But hopefully, like I say, it's ideal situation is, something hurt, and they said, listen, just go in, don't mess about, don't do any more damage than you need to. Go in there, get it checked out, get your leg up, and if it still hurts in the next couple of days, you won't play against the Chiefs. And it's one of those things where you're just preserving a player and not making a potential injury worse. But obviously, fully understanding of that could not be the case, and that could be a real injury. But I think maybe wishful thinking's taking over really at this moment in time. But I will say, sorry, just last point on this is one person I do have more than enough. I would say faith, but it's, I've seen him do it enough for 3 years to say that it's purely out of the evidence that we've got in front of us is Ben Johnson scheming and providing a good scheme to get players and get the best out of them in whatever the situation is. And even then, I don't even remember the touchdown from Jameson Williams against the San Francisco 49ers when he did the end around. And there's been a couple of plays like that. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw Jameson Williams get involved in a couple more trick plays, or jet sweeps, and things like that to, I guess, have some similar running style plays that utilize the likes of Jameson Williams and his speed as well.
Yeah, actually, a good point with Ben Johnson actually is because we've seen most years in the NFL, you have a team that does well, they lose their OC, he gets picked up by someone else, then the team just falls apart. And Ben Johnson's he stayed. He's done an amazing job these last 2 seasons, and he's not yet left. Now, there's talk of him rejecting a few teams, but you've seen the Seahawks hire a DC and Mike McDonald. Dan Quinn gets a head job again after his time at the Cowboys, and in a time where offense is the key, and it's a very offense heavy league. It's a surprise, and it's a good thing for the Lions that he's not gone anywhere. And I don't know whether that's because he's not frantic or whether it's because he's saying no to these teams. But how good must it be the fact that you are keeping him and he is staying, because he clearly wants to, try and do something with you guys. I think he would be part of history if you were to go and win a Super Bowl. Of course, no one's done it before. You've not even made a Super Bowl, let alone won one. So, how good is it that he is still there and he's still going to be your OC this season?
Yeah, and on that as well, just depending on who you ask, depends on what he does or what he did to the Commanders this year. If you ask a Lions fan, he 100% just simply turned him down. If you ask a Commanders fans, they didn't really want him anyway. So, well, I don't think we'll ever truly get the full story on that one. I kind of hope it is the one where he turns it down and the Lions fans are right. But it's amazing, absolutely amazing. The continuity in this league is not easy. To get continuity in this league, whether it is as a player, getting time to keep continuous games, whether it's a player, because we know, again, the offensive and defensive coordinator cycles that run through this league. If Ben Johnson has one more good year, there's going to be no choice, but he's going to have to take a head coaching job somewhere. He's just going to have to do it because they don't last long. Good OCs don't last long to become head coaches. Good coordinators don't. Bad coordinators don't last long because they go back to being position coaches and get bumped back down. It's one of those things. So to have continuity in this league with a quarterback that's now been here for going into his 4th season here, to have a lot of players here like Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown, etc., going into their 4th and 5th years. We used to, how many times could the Lions fans say we keep retaining talent and talent wants to stay? To also do that with an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator is massive. And it speaks to the volumes, I think, of what Dan Campbell's done, what Sheila's done with the team. And hopefully, those are the things that provide the best building blocks and foundations for continued success. Because changing everything up is what normally tends to derail teams a lot.
Couldn't agree more. I think the fact that you've given your quarterback a new deal, you've given obviously your wide receiver a new deal. It's just keeping and I think Penny's still got a deal as well. You're just keeping the core function then, and the spine. We talk about in football a lot, the spine of a team, the goalkeeper, the centre back, the midfielder, to have your offensive lineman, your best one as well, your quarterback and your RWR1, keep all of them, give them all new deal, keep them there, the finisher there, and also have a young quarterback, running back on a rookie deal. I think financially, you guys have absolutely smashed it. I think you've kept the main core now, and I think anyone else is just a bonus.
Taylor Decker as well, being retained for 3 more years. I love Taylor. He's the only Ohio State player I will ever love, I think, properly. I love Taylor Decker. I'm so glad he's staying. That's a massive one. And again, look at Hank Fraley. Look at how good this offensive line has been. And it's one of the few things that Matt Patricia got right, was hiring Hank Fraley and getting that offensive line sorted. Most of those, apart from Penei Sewell, the real pieces on that old line are all from that era of Detroit. They are mainstays and have been here for a long time. So that's amazing. The fact that we can keep that talent too, because again, Hank Fraley could very easily gone on to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else at this point with the talent that he's kind of shown. But I'm going to ask you a question, and it's about kind of the Ben Johnson thing. And my question to you is, the Commanders were the ones that were after him, and it's the main one. You've got an opportunity to stay with the Lions as an OC, and given all the talent and everything that we've just said about the Lions, you have a real shot at a Super Bowl, and bringing a Super Bowl to Detroit of all places. Or you've got the Commanders, you've got it's a head coaching job, and you get the ultimate job in the NFL as a coach. But it's going to be a while before you're even a contender and go to a Super Bowl. Which one would you rather do? And I feel like I'm wording that in a very go Lions kind of way. But, you've got a contender, but you're an offensive coordinator, or you've got a head coaching job at someone who's not going to be a contender for a while.
Yeah, I mentioned more towards the Lions thing. Now, I'm fully aware that I'm answering this question from the point of view that someone who doesn't want to be a coach in the NFL. I'm fully aware that, if you're maybe his first dream was to play in the NFL, maybe after his career ended, or maybe I don't know what he did before being a coach, but I'm sure when he got into coaching, his dream would have been eventually to go and be an NFL head coach. So I kind of think if I had that for mind, I would probably take the Commander's job because it is a chance to be a head coach, and you get all the glory as well with that. But also, I do feel like it is as well a team that is a contender. I mean, this is why we didn't see Bieniemy for a long time get a job. There's other reasons why people think that was the case, but obviously for his case, Bieniemy as well, he stayed there for years and won a Super Bowl. And I think with Ben Johnson, I think if his dream is to win a Super Bowl, no doubt about it, stay the Lions because I think the Commanders are in a good place. They've obviously got a rookie quarterback who could be something good, and they finally got rid of Dan Snyder. But I think if you're a team that the window's now, whereas you can't guarantee the window's going to be there when you are with the Commanders, and yeah, it's tough because on the one hand, the chance may not come up again, but on the other hand, if you're good enough, you'll get a chance again. So, and he's quite young as well, if I'm right. So yeah, I probably would stay there, but I also fully aware that I'm saying this someone who's not a coach himself, who probably hasn't dreamt of being an NFL head coach. So yeah,
there's a way to word it that would probably be more applicable to you.
Maybe.
From say,
yeah.
Would you rather if you were working for you were a journalist in a major publication for say Sky Sports, would you rather be a kind of have your own segment on Sky Sports, or would you rather be the managing editor of a small magazine or a small site?
I'll segment on Sky Sports all day long.
There you go. You're not the main guy, but you're a player in the big leagues rather than being the main guy. And I feel it's very disrespectful to Washington Commanders, and I don't mean to, because again, I think I agree. I think they're doing very, very good things this offseason, and they're hopefully a franchise on the up. But it's what closer aligns with what you think is best for you at this moment in time. And if you're a young up and coming journalist, then that's going to send you further.
All I will say as well, though, if it was double the wage, I would take whichever one to offer that. I think that if the managing editing job comes available and it's 2 or 3 times the money, I kind of maybe would be swayed. But also, someone who's dreamt as a child to be, on TV or radio, I feel like you have to in life do what you enjoy, and I think you only get one life supposedly, and it's it's a very short life in the grand scheme of things, and you've got 50-60 years of potentially, well, these days with the pension of working, you have to go into work enjoying your life, because I've been in jobs before where I've hated it and I've not wanted to go. I woke up in the morning not wanting to come in, whereas if you got a job you enjoy, that isn't a problem. So yeah, I think it's a very tough question, but I think ultimately you have to go with something you enjoy more.
That went way deeper than I think either of us initially
Yeah.
planned on. So yeah, Ben, it's nice to have Ben Johnson staying at the Lions. That's where we were at with it before, going into philosophical conversations. But yeah, it's brilliant to have Ben Johnson staying, and I think it's going to the continuity that you get in this league being how it is, to have that continuity is great. And it's going to I think things like that will only benefit the offense and benefit the Lions going forward. So
couldn't agree more. We will head though to our final segment, which is going to be our win, loss, tie section. So for those of you who are listening at home who haven't yet heard our podcast, each fan that comes on predicts their team's record by going through each game and answering with a win, loss, tie answer. Now, of course, this is your first time doing this, so you can't compare you to last year's. So we will start with week 1. As you host the LA Rams, as Matt Stafford returns to Detroit once again.
That's a win.
Yeah, just like it was in the wildcard round back in January.
Not quite. A bit more comfortable. Not very comfortable, just a little bit more comfortable.
That's a statement. Week 2 is a team that you beat in the next round of the playoffs last year in the Buccaneers at home.
I'm also going with a win there.
Oh, you got both your playoff wins in the first 2 weeks. That's definitely not a coincidence. Week 3, you're on the road for the first time, and it's against the Arizona Cardinals.
I'll take a win. I will.
Okay, so week 4 is a Seahawks team that will be playing for the first time, I believe, since 2008 without Pete Carroll as a head coach at home to the Seahawks.
I hate playing the Seahawks. I hate them because we always lose really close games. I have done for the last couple of years. So for that reason, I'm going to have to say win.
Okay, so nice 4-0 start going into your week 5 bye week. So week 6, you're on the road to your favourite team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Nobody, especially not the Lions, beats Dallas in Arlington. So I'm going to, again, that's a loss on our behalf that time.
Especially in, early on in the season. I think late on in the season, you could maybe argue differently, but Dallas Cowboys at home in the first half of the season, yeah, that's pretty much a lock.
I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that is a purely footballing win, and they win on footballing merit.
So no reversed. What was it? It was reversed holding.
Decker was eligible. Eligible.
I forgot about that one. That last year, I was thinking the one in the playoffs.
Against Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. It was a. What was it? It was something reversed. It was it the catch being in bounds was reversed or something like that? Yeah, before my time, but I remember seeing it on NFL films. Week 7, no. I believe it is your first NFC North game of the season as you on the road to the Minnesota Vikings.
I'm going to chalk a win there, but a close one. Very, very close one.
Nice. So week 8 is a home game against the Titans. Win, loss, or tie?
That'll be a win.
So week 9, you travel to Lambeau Field and take on the Green Bay Packers.
That's a loss. A very reluctant and sad loss.
Okay, so week 10 is basically the Lions of the AFC in the Houston Texans on the road.
On the road as well. I'll put down as a loss there as well.
Okay, so week 11 is a home game against London's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wait, what's the date? Oh, yeah, that's it. I'll go with a win on that one.
So that snaps the 2-game losing streak. And then you go into week 12 on the road to the Indianapolis Colts.
I think that's going to be a really good game. I actually think it's really going to be a good game. If AR stays healthy, he's going to be phenomenal. So that's a win for the Lions again. But in what will be an exciting game, I think.
Yeah, I think both teams are on the up. So, yeah, I think that'll be a good game. I think, as you say, will be a great game. Week 13 is a home game against the Chicago Bears.
Well, what's the rule about the Lions on Thanksgiving? Or what's the Family Guy joke about the Lions on Thanksgiving?
Always get thrashed.
Yeah,
They're getting beaten.
the joke being that 2 lions had cornered Brian
Yeah,
against the
that's
Rocks,
it.
and he
Yeah.
goes, "Whoa, it's Thanksgiving. Shouldn't you be in Detroit losing a football game somewhere?" I'm gonna go with a win there.
Oh, so that
I'm gonna
I
go with a
believe
win.
would be your first win since 2016, 2014, your last Thanksgiving win?
16. I think it's 16.
Okay. So week 14 is against the Packers at home.
That's a win at home.
Nice. You're 10-3 going into your week 15 game. You take on the Buffalo Bills.
I'm going with a win, and I'm going with rubbing that in my brother's face all week after that.
Love that. And as a Dolphins fan, I'm all for Bills losing games. So that's I think everyone wins on this podcast today with that one.
Keon Coleman has a great game because I love him, but he still loses.
His personality seems like really good as well. Like he just seems like a fun guy, and I think
brilliant.
Certainly a guy to look out for with the lack of receivers really in there, especially with Chase Claypool suffering a season-ending injury. I think he's going to be a big part. Week 16 is a road game at Soldier Field against the Chicago Bears.
Ooh, that's a loss.
Okay, so that means you're then going into your Week 17 game. You're on the road to the San Francisco 49ers.
Revenge time. We are winning that one.
Okay, so that means your final Week 18 game is at home against the Minnesota Vikings.
And I'm going to take a win there. The Lions go, is it 13-4, and take the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Number 1 seed. I love that. I love the optimism. So you get the number 1 seed, you avoid the wildcard round, you get the bye, you're at home. How far will you go in the playoffs with that record if it comes true?
We're going to have a nice little bye week there as well, aren't we? Straight after. I'm going to be bold for you, Andy.
Ooh,
and I'm going to go all the way. I think the Lions make the Super Bowl. It scares me if we play. Look, high likelihood is you play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, of which I just can't write the Chiefs off. I just can't do it. But at least as far as the NFC goes, I have the Lions going all the way and going one up on last year.
Love that. I love that a lot. And I think for me, for a lot of neutrals, I think seeing a team who's never made a Super Bowl before that make one, I think that would be. I think the dream Super Bowl for a lot of neutrals is Texans Lions because both teams have won a Super Bowl before, haven't even made one before. So you're guaranteed to have a new winner regardless. And that's something I've always loved to happen. We came close before my time again, but we came close in 2003 when there was 3 teams who not won one before. I think it was the Buccaneers, the Jags, and there was a 3rd team who not won it before. And then the 2017 season, you had amazingly, it was Case Keenum, Blake Bortles, and Nick Foles in the both championship games, and it was Vikings, Jags, and who's the 3rd team? There was 3 teams. Of course, the Eagles, obviously, and all 3 of them hadn't won one before. Obviously, the Eagles went on and won the whole thing and won their first Super Bowl. But that was almost. I would love to have seen. If just Brady had lost, we would have got Blake Bortles against Nick Foles, or I would love to have Blake Bortles against Case Keenum. That would have been an amazing Super Bowl. A one-off moment that we never will. It's basically like if we saw in 2024, well, Carson Wentz against who's a really Daniel Jones, for example. Imagine, Chiefs Giants. That Mahomes gets injured, and you've got Daniel Jones against Carson Wentz. That would be just. That's kind of thing what I'd want. And I'd want Carson Wentz to throw the winning touchdown to Louis Tree-Summit and have Welshman get the headlines in the Super Bowl. But that's probably wishful thinking.
On that one, I do want to ask you, how did you watch any of the Chiefs preseason games?
Yeah, I avoid preseason a lot. I watch Dolphins games because I like to keep an eye on it for many reasons, being a fan, but also for the Fins Nation UK podcast I do. But I did delve into the Chiefs. Now, I was skipping the Jags offensive plays. I was because I don't even know what half the scores were in the preseason. That's how little I pay attention to the preseason. But I did watch him play, and for a while nothing was really happening. Weren't seeing him. Saw him one return kick, and then he saw him in a few plays. Now I've seen the hate you receive. People calling him the least elusive back of all time. Now it's just one game. It is just one game, and you got to remember that he hasn't played an NFL game before, and he is almost on a crash course. So obviously didn't do too much. Didn't see a lot of him as well, but I'm hoping that when they play whoever they play next weekend, I believe it's on Sky as well. Then I'm hoping we'll see more of him. But
that'll be
nice seeing.
That'll be yours truly. The
Detroit Lions
weekend.
Oh wow, okay.
So he's not going to have a good weekend this weekend, but the weekend after, I hope he does. I even it's preseason. I hope he has a great weekend this weekend too.
Yeah, me too. And it's just great seeing a Welshman in the NFL. Even though it's preseason, it's just great seeing someone from Wales actually playing in the NFL. So for me, it's
And they didn't play like every position that wasn't apart from quarterback as well, though, didn't they? They had him return, they had him gunning, they had him punt returning, they had him doing as a receiver, as a back, as a kicker.
Yeah, that was surprising. I knew he'd have plays on special teams and in the game itself, but I didn't have that on my bingo card. Him kicking it. That's something I didn't think I'd ever see any receiver do, let alone him.
Yeah, well, I think you've obviously got the point where I loved watching I think it was Mecole Hardman and Lewis Rees-Zammit in practice, and they're going through some drills, and Mecole Hardman walks up to him and starts kind of coaching him through a drill and says, like, look, as we're standing here, as we're about to snap the ball, he's at the line, and he's going, look, I want you to stand here, you need to stand like this, and when the ball gets snapped, you need to move like that. And he's like, I need to get better at it. So what we're going to do, we're going to both work on it together, and we're both going to get better at it together. And half of him was a bit just walking away, just going, fair play, Mecole Hardman. But also, they clearly like him and want him to do well. They want him. I think they want him around. They enjoy having him around. Maybe it's to turn around and say, "Look at us. We had the Welshman. We got the next IPP player through." But it's just great to see that not only is it as a Welshman and as the husband of a Welsh woman, it's great to see as someone who spends a lot of time in Wales and absolutely nobody to talk to about the NFL. I hope it grows it there, and I have then someone to talk to when I go to Wales. But also just as an athlete and as someone who wants to see that kind of thing happen, I really hope he does smash it.
Me too. And as well, fun fact, he went to the same college as my brother. Also, he went to the same university. It's called Hartbury College. It's almost like a university/college thing. But so him and my brother have been to the same, and they're not actually they're a bit different in age now. But a little bit of he's from sort of not too far from where I live as well. Yeah. Sort of the part of Wales where you're really close to the border. I mean, I'm right now at my parents' house where I grew up, 5-minute drive from England. I don't think he was too far away either from that. And obviously Hartbury's not even in Wales; it's in Gloucester. So it's really good seeing him play, and someone who is fallen out of love with rugby, but he was the one player that was keeping me engaged and watching Wales games was him. Yeah. So seeing him play in the NFL, it's amazing. So hopefully he can do the biz. I've taken about 4 dynasty rookie drafts, so hopefully he'll do the business and get me some point. But I'm fully aware he'll be my taxi squad for 2 years. But you never know. But that is where we will end the podcast for today. Our Detroit Lions 2024 season preview. Once again, huge thank you to Fletch for coming on today.
I appreciate it, mate. As always, I am very, very, very grateful for you having me on.
Well, pleasure is always mine, mate. Always good having you on. And of course, those who aren't familiar with your work yet, you've got many podcasts, including Sleep at Work and Heard on the Line. Tell the audience how they can find your podcast and what we can look forward to in the next coming weeks on your podcasts.
Yeah, so I kind of run the Asleep at Work network. How me and Andy met at first, when Andy came on to tell us all about how he started supporting the Dolphins and how he got into the NFL. That podcast is returning in the next couple of weeks, which is really great, as I've been focusing on other podcasts instead for the past few months, including Hurdle the Line, which is our flagship NFL podcast, and College Football UK, which is, I'm sure you can guess what that one's about by the name of it. So that's just been really exciting. And obviously the college football season is right around the corner. We are less than 2 weeks away from Dublin, which I'm sure you and I will get the chance to actually see each other face to face in person, which I'm very excited about. You will find me. I'll be the guy holding the really weird sign behind Pat McAfee or Nick Saban on College Game Day. That podcast is kind of picking up now. The season's about to start, and then finally, obviously, with Hurdle the Line, the season about to start again. That's going to pick up more. I will be doing the preview show, looking up to the weekend and all the Sunday slate of games and kind of getting ready and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, there will be a review show every Tuesday morning as well with the rest of the team. And we'll see what happens after that. But you can find me where I mostly spread Honolulu Blue propaganda across the United Kingdom at Lions Guy Fletch on all forms of social media. That's both Twitter and Instagram. I don't really do Facebook, but yeah, those two. Lions Guy Fletch.
I've just realised, without even realising it, I'm wearing, I think it's almost quite similar to Honolulu Blue. What my t-shirt right now, it almost looks like it's Lions colours, but I don't know whether it is. I think I've unintentionally gone in Lions gear without even realising.
I have that effect on people. Apparently, I've heard something to do. I must have that effect on people subconsciously. I have everybody kind of secretly rooting for the Lions, even if they don't admit it.
But what a great way to finish the podcast for today. So this has been a Detroit Lions season preview with myself, your host, Annie Davis, and also Aaron Fletcher, or Fletch. Now, our next preview will be coming from one of actually Fletcher's podcast colleagues in Sam Andrews, who'll be on tomorrow's podcast for the LA Rams season preview. So keep an eye on that. That'll be out tomorrow. But in the meantime, see you guys next time.